Colleagues, am I audible?
Yes, Mr. Lamini.
Thank you so much. Welcome, colleagues, to our session, Collaborative Virtual Continuous Medical Education webinar series, and with our CPD program, which is a requirement for us as lab practitioners to have these regular trainings on different thematic areas as per the need. For the benefit of the colleagues that are not here last week, can I just go through the CPD program overview in 5 minutes? And then I'll hand over to our speaker today, Tina, our principal quality lab technologies, to take us on the analytic phase, quality control and quality assurance as we look into our LMS. Can I share my slide on the CPD program? Okay, I hope you all can see my screen. Colleagues,
Yes,
I'll just take you through within 5 minutes talking about the CPD program for the benefit of us all to understand how the CPD programs works like, how it looks like, and what are the requirements as per all the relevant stakeholders into the program. So I'll touch on the background, look at the CPD framework, highlight a bit about our CPD system, and orient you on the tools and forms that we're using for this CPD, and as well as look into the quality, the Q1 of our calendar, CPD calendar that we're having, and that I've shared with all the practitioners. Okay, colleagues, the CPD is an international standard that all practitioners in all thematic areas or relevant fields should have as evidence of their competency to support their training records, documenting skills and knowledge and their experiences. It's also here to improve the health status of the sources in the health service in terms of the quality service that we're delivering to all our clients. So it is like a personal record for us to say, you have been trained on quality this year, you've been trained on supply chain, you've been trained on this instrumentation, and also it is mandatory for us to have the CPD points in line with the trainings for our renewal of our practicing licenses with the EMDC. So this is a memo that was issued by the EMDC when we started this year, October 1st, to emphasize on the need that the CPD is now a requirement for the medical cadre as well as the laboratory. Since last year, we were doing a situational analysis, trying to see how it will be implemented and also rolled out, from which we've learned so many things. Hence, we have this webinar series as well, which are supported by physical trainings, but those physical trainings were limited to specific labs. Hence, we introduced these platforms to have so that it can reach everyone at any place through this webinar series. So we have guideline that we're using, and that was established and approved by the EMDC in April 2019. So it is the guideline that we're using to follow and as well as implement the CPD activities as we are doing. It also have the overall excuse me. Also, it just gives us an overview of how we can conduct and also relate to the different stakeholders, and also supported by our CPD logbook, as you can see here, which is a document I've tried my best to ensure that all practitioners do have. But if you still don't have this logbook, you can get it at the EMDC office, or you can contact me. We can make a plan on how I can get it to the laboratory, so that you can document all the training that are ongoing, just like this virtual webinar series. You can write it immediately after this, immediately after you complete this webinar series, you can document it there. So this is the CPD framework that we are following to implement our CPD program. At the heart or at the core of this program, we have the AMLAC, which is our Medical Laboratory Advisory Committee, which is a committee that is made of public and private, as well as the association members sitting into this committee to help in the accreditation of CPD activities, guide on the necessary day-to-day activities, as well as work closely with the EMDC to help in the transfer of information, CPD administration, and so forth, and all of that. Then we also have the partners and teaching institution, the MOH and EHLS, blood bank, and the private labs, which the primary roles of these are to provide CPD activities, provide CPD administration, as well as present CPD activities to all the staff and affiliated with them. Then we have the big pool, the laboratory practitioners, ourselves. So our primary role here, just like today, it's for us to collect CPD points, participate in lifelong learning. So what this means is that on top of these webinars and physical training that you might organize for each and every lab practitioner, you're still allowed to go online, get a course that is in line with the laboratory. And as soon as you accumulate the certificate or complete that, you can then notify the training office through relevant email that I'll share later. And then also you present different CPD activities that you've accumulated in different platforms that you've taken relevant training, which then will be approved by the AMLAC, and then you'll get a response to say it is worth the points that you proposed initially. And the role of the supervisor and the employer is to motivate the staff, helps in skill development, and also motivate the staff to also participate in any CPD activity that is presented to us as practitioners. So the whole idea here, colleagues, is to make all trainings that are within the MOH calendar and through the EHLS and private labs and the blood bank as well to be CPD accredited. And then on top of that, we have this virtual webinar series, which will give us this 1 point, 2 point on a weekly or monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, such that by the time we complete this EMDC year, we have different training from various platforms, and everyone had a fair chance to attend and accumulate CPD points as per the need. We also have the CPD model that we are using for CPD implementation. Like I mentioned, colleagues, that we have CPD providers who present CPD activities to us. And I will share in the next slide the number of and the list of CPD providers that we have that have been accredited by the AMLAC and the EMDC, who initially applied to be CPD providers, and they are vigorously reviewed through the relevant document that are submitted. And then the AMLAC and the EMDC accredited these CPD providers. Then they're supposed to present CPD courses, just like we're having today's session. The CPD provider of today's session is EHLS, and the CPD course is quality assurance and quality control in the analytic phase. So as lab staff, we should participate in this these CPD activities available for us, which we get from the CPD calendar shared. That is also shared with all practitioners. All right. Can we mute our mic? Apologies, colleagues. Also, we have number 7 here, the list of CPD activities, which are the relevant trainings that we're having like today. So all which will be used for licensure, and they are all housed at EMDC office that we are using also have as a evidence of our competency to say that Bongani is competent to still practice or still work in a relevant field through the submission of these CPD activities. This is the list of the CPD providers that we have. Till now, we've got 9 CPD providers made up of the institutions, the different partners, the private labs, the EHLS, as well as implementing partners. So we all give them a unique code, as you can see here in column number 2. So it starts with P00 and then followed by the year. And then we try to classify them as per their thematic area. Say some focus on LQMS, diagnostics, as well as supply chain and so forth and so forth. So this is just a numbering nomenclature for us to understand that when you see a number starting with P001 2023, what does it mean? I just take an example of HLS to say CPD provider EHLS given the number P001 2023, whereby the P stands for provider and the 001 stands for the number, or say they were the second to be given the accreditation following EMDC as P00. And then the year states the year that they were accredited, which is 2023. So this means that their accreditation to be CPD providers for the EMDC of the laboratory cadre will run for 2 years. So at 2025, all the CPD providers you see here, they should also show interest to say they are still willing to offer CPD activities to the laboratory cadre. And we try to emphasize to every partner organization coming in to give trainings to us to be affiliated with the CPD program, because what would make sense for you to get a nice training but still not recognized as CPD activities, which also probes us as practitioners to also question anyone who gives you a training. Should it be an external training to request them to provide their CPD accreditation so that you can get the CPD points as you are getting these different trainings everywhere. And we also have P001 2023 followed by the thematic area of that training. For example, here we have different categories. We have QU for quality, which we later changed to Q, and then we have safety, ST, we have RI for relevant instruments, and then we have SC for supply chain, testing, which is TS, and then IT, which include LMIS and LIS training or CMIS, and the list is endless. So the whole idea is for you to understand that when you see a code like 001 2023, it means that 001 is EHLS accredited on 2023, and then the training is Q quality, and then the CPD number frequency. It means that we are getting this training for the first time, which is 01. And the second time we get this same training, it will be Q01 -02. So this is the CPD point allocation categories as per the CPD guidelines, the way that they were devised and created and also approved by the EMDC, to say that for an in-service training, colleagues, 1 point is equal to 1 hour. For a workshop, in this context, we define the workshop whereby it's a mixture of laboratory, pharmacy, doctors, whereby it's not your area of specialty. So you get 0.5 points for an hour of participation. And then if we have a general club, 0.5 would be the point allocated of every hour. And then when you take a course online, which is an e-learning, 1 point of engagement will be equal to one hour. And then should you also publish a paper, you get 20 points as a principal author, as a co-author 10 points. And the list is endless. I must say, colleagues, that when you're delivering a training or a workshop, as you can see here, you get all the points. If a training is worth 2 points, for example, today's speaker would get 4 points. That is how they also benefit in sharing information to us. And this also probes us to try to find, different talks or presentation from different labs. So for you, you can benefit a lot as you are delivering a guest lecture or a training or workshop. So these are the different requirements as per the different professions we have within the laboratory. At first, we have the pathologist, whereby we request 40 points for them to still practice. 2 points coming from safety, 20 points coming from the core specialty, and then the 18 from the clinical practice. And then for majority of us fall into the medical laboratory profession or CAD, whereby we request about 30 points for us to still continue practicing. And then 3 points comes from any course on LQMS, 3 points from any course from any instrumentation that you're using, 2 points from safety. And then the 22 points comes from different areas within the practice lab area that you're working in. For example, you might get different trainings on different analyzers as per the year goes, which can form the 22, and also get different webinar series that will be offering different trainings as like we are doing today. And I must mention that the number of the lab techs do not work on the bench. So I'll later explain for them to still get the required courses, what should they do as well. But it's stipulated in and well explained in the guidelines in section 9.3. And then for medical laboratory technician, it's 25 points, as also explained here. And for phlebotomists, it's only 15 points, which are required for them to still practice. So we try, colleagues, to create a comprehensive calendar that will give us the fair chance to every thematic area that you need in the laboratory. I must say that we also synchronize this training calendar development with the competency assessment reports that we get from the lab managers, to which also probes like which training should we develop for which card. So that's where the training needs assessments come, and also training needs assessment that are done and also as required by the different standards that we're using to implement LQMS in our laboratory. We create those different trainings using those training need assessment tools. The requirement, colleagues, and also as evidence that you've participated in a CPD workshop, we request the CPD provider to issue out a certificate of attendance. So this is just an example of one that we're using last year with the Taiwan Medical University college in the country training us on acid fast staining. But the whole idea here is to give us an attendance certificate, which will give us an accreditation number, which will start with P00 something, the level of activity, the number of points that are allocated, as well as the dates and of completion in attendance, which this will act also as your evidence of attending and getting the training this year. So we also have different forms, colleagues. I won't go through this, but we have different number of forms whereby the CPD providers, they apply within the EMDC training office as well to be CPD accredited. And then on top of these forms, we also have Annex, which is a form that which talks about assessment of non-accredited CPD. So what this means is that I might fly to Mozambique to get a training on TB, but that training wasn't in the CPD calendar for the court. So to get the training recognized in the country, if it's within the laboratory space, I should fill out this form to notify the EMDC that I've participated in this training, which is in line with what I'm doing. So you complete these forms with the details of the training, where you got the training, and also attach the certificate of participation. And also this also applied to training that we took online. And the majority of us have these trainings, could be Coursera, Udemy, or CDC platform, which are not in the calendar or in the CPD calendar. So you can notify the EMDC through this form, colleagues, whereby you fill this and then you send it to the email, which is attached in the CPD calendar that I've shared with pretty much all of us. And then this is how our calendar looks like. So what we did here, we merged it with the MOS training calendar, because the MOS training calendar doesn't really have the details of the CPD points, the accreditation number. So this acts like your reference point as a practitioner, like in your phone or in your PC, to know that if I'm invited in a parastology training next week, how many points does it have? What's the CPD course number? Is it physical or not? What is the purpose of the training? So that you can prepare yourself and align all your training plans in the laboratory or in your space, how you do that. So this will provide this detailed calendar, CPD calendar on a quarterly basis. And then this one that I've shared runs from October to December. So end of it, the last page also have online self-paced courses. So which are not only limited to these, but we're introducing the idea that you can go on your WHO platform to get a training, maybe on basic microbiology, which is in line with what you're doing. And immediately when you get the certificate of completion within that 1 or 2 hours, send that email to send a copy of that certificate to the email attached on the top of this calendar. So this is how pretty much your CPD logbook would look like over time. This was my CPD logbook at the time. I was trying to document training that I was getting, last year and going forward. So I suppose by the end of this EMDC year next year, all our CPD logbooks will look like this. And we also suggest that and also request that if you have a training which is physical and the CPD provider has a stamp, you get the stamping as proof of evidence. And when you renew next year, you will issue out a printed copy of this CPD logbook, the printed form, as well as a payment receipt at the EMDC. And the CPD officer there will review these to say that, oh, you've met the minimum point for you to practice this year. So we believe that you are still competent to still practice on 2025. So in a nutshell, colleagues, this is what CPD programs look like. And what we've introduced as also evidence here, for us to be able to give you out in certificates of participation, we've introduced digital quiz, which is about 5 to 10 questions on the topic of the day, whereby you can scan the QR code. I'll also paste the link on the chat box, so we can do it on the last 5 minutes of the presentation that we're having on that day. So of that, colleagues, for those who might not be able to participate, but still, we are still trying to test this process. We have the video recordings available, whereby I will also share the Google Drive folder at a later stage. And also to add, we have a digital system through this website, emdc.org, but I will introduce the system to you at a later stage of the CPD system implementation. But for now, colleagues, this is how the CPD system looks like. I will still do this type of brief presentation on the CPD for us to really understand how it operates, how it will operate for now going forward, because this is now the new standard for us, and we should comply as the laboratory, and which is also serve as evidence for us that we are competent to still practice in that specialty area we are focusing on. Colleagues, this is the end of my brief talk on the CPD. Today's talk is mainly on the quality control and quality assurance on the analytic phase, to which I will hand over to Mr. Klina, our principal laboratory technologist, looking and also heading the National Quality Assurance Unit, to hand over to his talk for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dlamini, and good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon,
Good afternoon. Afternoon, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you once again, Mr. Dlamini, for welcoming me, and thank you for the elaborate presentation on the CPD program. Yes, as I have been introduced, I am Dlamini, the principal. Okay, can you kindly mute yourselves so that maybe I can see if there is a question? Can we make sure that we have all muted ourselves? I can see Wonderboy, kindly mute. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I was actually introducing myself to say I am Zina Dlamini, working at the quality unit. So for the past week and today, we have been presenting on the quality control and quality assurance in the pre-analytical last week. So today we'll be focusing on the analytical phase. So the main aim of our course is to just raise awareness about the critical nature of the phases, like the pre-analytical last week. So today it will be the analytic phase of the medical lab to provide guidance on ensuring diagnostic accuracy through effective quality control and quality assurance practices. Maybe just a minute to recap on what we covered last week. We just looked at the pre-analytical to say it is where diagnostic actually begins. So quality begins at the pre-analytical phase. So identifying the patient, collecting the sample should be of quality. Then we actually said quality control and quality assurance. They are actually very important for reducing errors. So once those errors are being reduced from analytical, we will definitely get quality results, because we all remember that we can say garbage in, then we will actually get garbage out. But if we get good samples into our system for analysis, probably we will get good results. Then we looked into the diagnostic process, starting from the patient identification, preparation, collection, and handling of samples. Then we looked into possible errors that actually occur at the pre-analytical phase that are not limited to mislabeling, hemolysis insufficient, mixed match. And we said approximately 46 to 68.2% of the errors do happen in the pre-analytical phase as compared to the analytical and post-analytical, where in analytical, we say probably it's 7 to 13, and post it's 18 to 47. So pre-analytical actually showed that is where most errors actually occur. So we really urged that we take much precautions when we work in the pre-analytical era to reduce the errors. So we also looked into the difference between the quality control and the quality assurance, of which I think even today we will still highlight on those. Then we looked again into the best practices in the pre-analytical phase. We talked about the sample collection, sample labeling, and the sample transportation, and all the necessary steps that needs to be followed, especially those that are laid in our SOPs, and use of good equipment. That is even our tubes and everything that we need should be within expiry dates, so that we get good specimen. And the specimens types that we actually do have in our laboratories, we have blood, urine, sputum, and sometimes histology samples, even pap smears. So all the samples actually that are collected should be collected in a good way. So colleagues, allow me to get into today's topic, that is the analytical phase. So I think you can see my screen. Can you kindly confirm?
Confirm.
Yes, your screen is fine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's okay, Ngos.
Thank you so much. So this is our topic today. We're still ensuring diagnostic accuracy in the analytical phase through the quality control and quality assurance in the medical laboratories. So as Mr. Dlamini have said, if you just look at the bottom left of the the screen, you can see the CPD activity number and the CPD points that are actually offered in this course. So my as follows, we'll just briefly look into the introduction, then we look into quality control and quality assurance in the analytical phase. Then look into ensuring diagnostic accuracy, then supporting diagnostic accuracy, ensuring laboratory equipment reliability, then we tackle troubleshooting and staff competence, then we conclude. I will urge that if we have maybe questions, we can questions or comments, we may note them down. So at the end, we will open the floor for questions. So analytical phase, it's actually one phase that actually deals with the testing mainly. So this phase, I would say they are just like a chain. They work together. Starting from the analytical, once the samples are being collected in the correct way, now they come to the second phase, that is the analytical phase where we actually test. So in this picture, the first line from the specimen ordering, specimen collection, and specimen transport, they all fall under the analytical phase. So when we look down, specimen testing now, that is our analytical phase where we actually execute the testing. Then the rest again will be the post-analytical phase, which I hope we will look into it some other time in the future. So we really emphasize the role of the analytical phase in the diagnostic process, that it's very important, and its significance of the quality control and quality assurance in maintaining accuracy is very important. So the main objective of this presentation today is just to understand the quality control and the quality assurance concept. So we need to highlight the practical applications in the laboratory, how we actually do our QCs and our QAs, and explore equipment maintenance, troubleshooting, and staff competence, because we do have quite a number of quality essentials that are really needed for our analytical phase. So maybe just to look into them, I think it's just a reminder. We have about 12 of them, the quality essentials, of which they start from the documents and records that may include our quality manuals and our SOPs. Then we have our management reviews, that could be our technical reviews of our records, to say maybe our maintenance of the machines, our daily temperature recordings. Then we have our organization and personnel, to see our duty rosters, who is on duty, doing what. Then we have our client management and customer service. It's very important. These are just the requirements again of the standard, to say our clients should be actually taken care of. So we need to do even some customer service to see what customers are probably complaining about, and if there are complaints, we need to resolve them. Then we have equipment. Equipment, we need to have our equipments in order according to the standard. So we need to calibrate and keep records for each, maybe it's daily, weekly, or monthly. We need to verify and have those documented. Then again, we have evaluation and audits. So we need to periodically do some audits in our laboratories as per the requirement of the standard, just to check if we adhere to the standard and see if there could be areas of improvements or non-conformances. Then we also have another one on purchasing and inventory, to say our labs should have like a budget so that they can focus on how much reagents they actually use or they will need in the future, and keep a good inventory store of the reagents that they are actually using. Then we have the process control being the central of it all.
with the vacuum pump, it sucks out all the air in the respective chambers. And
okay, let's continue. I think kindly mute so that we can all go together. So another quality essential we say is the process control that actually looks into how we actually do all the processes in the lab, the sample collection, the handling, the preparation of the samples prior to testing, how we maintain the temperatures and everything pertaining to the samples and the testing itself. Then information management, it looks either we use the electronic or the paper-based system, how we actually manage our information. Then the identification and the non-conformities, corrective and preventative actions, how we actually work on those, how we close those gaps, how we improve from what was not okay. Then we have occurrence and incident management and the process improvement. That's where we sometimes we can then have our quality improvement project. Then lastly, we have our facilities and biosafety, where we look into safety issues and how the laboratory structures are and how the workflow is. Okay, let's now get into the analytical phase, just to define, to say it is actually very important because it comprises of the testing process itself, the analysis. It could be on blood, it could be on the urine or any other sample that we can actually analyze in the lab, as we've mentioned. It can be in the anatomical laboratories, the pap smears, the histology samples, it can be microbiology, the CSFs, every sample. So during this phase, a range of diagnostic tests is actually conducted on the patient sample to actually get a result that will be used by the clinicians for making decisions to our patients. So it is very important to maintain accuracy in the analytical phase so that the diagnostic and the treatment plans are based on this test. So sometimes, most of the time, clinicians, they actually rely on the laboratory test, and some of the tests, even WHO says it needs to be laboratory confirmed so that a plan can be actually done on the patient. So that's why we really need to be very accurate when actually doing our test. So we really need to maintain even precision and reliability, of which it is non-negotiable. It is a must in this stage, so that we prevent any medical errors at all costs, to ensure optimal patient care. So what is the impact of the patient diagnosis and treatment? There will be a direct correlation between the quality testing in the analytical phase and the patient outcome. So when we do the testing in the right way, according to our SOPs, according to the standard, then we get good results that are going to be of good help to the patient. If the patient is now seen that maybe they have actually malaria, then the test actually should actually come to say they actually have the malaria and which species. If it's P. ovale, then maybe its treatment is different from treating P. falciparum. So that is how important it is. So the clinicians will actually give the right medication and the client then will actually be safe. Then errors and inaccuracies in this phase can lead to misdiagnosis, improper treatment, and potential harm to patients, or even death can actually occur to the patients due to errors. Some actually usually say a laboratory is not a zone for errors, so we need to try and prevent errors in all costs. So let's look into the difference between the quality control and quality assurance. I think in just simply terms, quality control, when we just talk about quality control, it's all like the operations that are used to fulfill the requirements for quality. So in our slide here, we define it as a focus on the processes and activities designed to ensure that the test results fall within the predefined limits of accuracy and precision. And what is the role of quality control? It is actually concerned with the identification and correction of immediate errors or variation, providing a real-time reliability checks. We will actually be able to note that things are not going according to the standard or according to the protocol. Then we need to then act on it. So an example of a quality control, it could be our daily calibration checks on laboratory instruments that are in the form of the QC. So then what is quality assurance? Even here, in a simpler terms that we actually know, we can define quality assurance as all the planned and the systematic actions that are necessary to provide confidence that our product or result or service will satisfy the given requirements for quality. Or according to this definition, it says it encompasses like the comprehensive range of systematic activities and processes aimed at preventing. Now we are preventing the errors we don't want to happen and maintain consistent quality over time. Its role actually focuses on the design and implementation of processes that reduce the risk of errors and ensure a long-term quality. For example, development and enforcement of laboratory protocols, staff training, equipment maintenance programs are part of a quality assurance. Okay, quality control in the analytical phase. We actually say this is very important. We cannot ever emphasize this so that we can ensure that our test results are reliable, so that doctors can actually rely. They shouldn't have like doubt to say, is this the result correct or not? And the result, does it come in the turnaround time that has been stipulated? So there should be an ongoing monitoring and evaluation. We say our QC in the analytical phase, it involves the continuous like surveillance and assessment of the entire process, from sample collection to reporting of the results. So it goes across all the phases of the laboratory, from the pre-analytical to the post-analytical. So even the analytical phase is actually part of. So its purpose is to identify and address any deviations or non-conformities or inconsistencies in real time, so that we can then action on it. Yes, then there is immediate error detection. Excuse me. Quality control systems are designed to promptly identify the errors or variations that could compromise the accuracy of the test results. Then we need to act on them. And its importance is to rapidly detect and prevent the inaccurate results from being reported, and thereby safeguarding the patient's health. You can just imagine releasing a wrong result to a patient. Sometimes that can lead to detrimental effects. We can just imagine giving a hyperglycemic somebody results that are for a hypoglycemic somebody. So the treatment will be different, and that can actually lead to the patient's death. So that's why we really emphasize on the importance of accuracy in the analytical phase. Then correction to prevent errors. When the errors now are detected, we need to take immediate corrective actions to rectify the issue, ensure that the accuracy of the test results is there. So how do we then ensure the accuracy? That can include instrument calibration, retesting, or rechecking the sample integrity. So in a lab, it is always like good if you are doubting that maybe an error actually occurred and you no longer trust the results that you have, to actually withhold or maybe repeat, because it's actually said no result is better than a wrong result. So if we are doubting, it's better not to give out the result, because you can just imagine a patient getting a wrong result, and instead of being helped, that patient can end up dying. So we actually do not want to see that. So let's look at the types of quality control that we have in our medical laboratories. Usually we have two, that is the internal quality control and the external quality control. And I'm aware that almost all of us, we are familiar with this. We'll go into further details in the next slide. These types of the QCs, they include procedural controls, instrument controls, and processes controls. Each type of these controls, they play a unique role in verifying the reliability and the accuracy of the test result. So internal quality control, it's a very important one in ensuring daily accuracy and reliability of the analytical phase. Mainly in our laboratories, we use reference materials that come in form of maybe controls of maybe 3 levels, low, medium, and high, which are commercially prepared. So these reference material, they serve as like known standards, enabling the calibration and verification of the test methods. The role of the materials relies on the usage of the reference materials to confirm the accuracy of the test results and the instruments, because normally they come with the control ranges to say this is where the low control should lie, then this is where the medium control should lie, and the high. So an example could be calibration curves with known reference sampling. So when we look into the instrument calibration, the calibration process, it's very important for ensuring that the laboratory instruments are accurate and precise. Normally, some instruments, they come with a demand to say they need to be calibrated maybe daily or maybe whenever you change a reagent, so they actually do specify. So it's basically like setting the instruments to actually test what it is intended to test. So it is very important. It is properly calibrated, the instruments to be properly calibrated for reliable results. So if it's not calibrated well, we may end up not getting reliable results. So example of instrument calibration, it's the routine calibration of, it can be pipettes, spectrophotometers, and analyzers. So most of the time we use to calibrating the bigger analyzers, the chemistries and hematology analyzers, but as well as the auxiliary equipment, they really need to be calibrated too. Then regular monitoring of the instrument's performance. Continuous evaluation are monitored in real time to identify deviation from the expected performance. So it is very important to regularly monitor to see if our instruments are still working according to what they are supposed to. So its significance, it's an early detection of issues, prevent inaccurate results from being reported. So it will help us to always issue results that are of good reliability. So an example could be alerts triggered for instruments drift or malfunction, to say if now it has drifted or shifted from the normal, it can give an alert to say it's no longer on the right limits. External quality control, EQA, it's an assurance that is actually beyond the laboratory's borders, fostering a broader context of reliability. That is where we normally register with the accredited EQA providers. For example, we have the NHLS that will actually send out samples to different participating laboratories, and those samples are of known values. So the labs that are participating, they actually do not know the value of those samples, then they do analyze the samples. And what is important with the EQA is whenever we receive these samples in our various laboratories, we need to treat them in a similar manner that we treat our routine patient samples. So they don't actually need a special treatment or special care, because they are aimed at taking the system, the overall system, like from the analytical, pre-analytical to the post-analytical, to see if everything is actually done accordingly. So participating in the proficiency testing program, as we have said, the laboratories, they participate in external proficiency testing programs to assess their ability to produce the accurate results. That is testing from pre-analytical to post, as we have said. So its purpose is to evaluate the laboratory's performance against established standards and then provide valuable feedback. Then we can also have inter-laboratory comparison, where laboratories, they engage in inter-comparison, sharing results and methods for mutual evaluation to see if they really get the same results. So its benefits include identifying discrepancies, then encourage, of course, improvement and enhance the overall accuracy of our testing. We can also have external audits that can come under EQA. Then external and evaluation audits involve assessments by the independent organization to ensure compliance with standards. The role of the audits is to enhance transparency, accountability, and adherence to established guidelines. They actually even help in giving the laboratory confidence to say it can be trusted by any other laboratories, either nationally or internationally. So in our context of Eswatini, at the moment, currently we do provide HIV EQA and TB microscopy slides for that end. And what is being earmarked upcoming soon will be the hepatitis and syphilis EQA. Moving on to the quality assurance again in the analytical phase. As we have defined what is the QA, it actually takes the holistic approach to ensure that our analytical phase it's working beyond error detection. So we have a comprehensive quality measure that encompasses a wide range of measures, protocols, and systems designed to maintain the quality from start to finish. We have that diagram of quality assurance that actually says that it works hand in hand. So we need all those other things when we actually work with quality assurance. That could be our standard operating procedures, training of our staff, review of our documents, and all other things. Then we have a good storage practice, the GSP, and good GDP, the good distribution practice of our reagents. We have audit validations. It could be internal and external. And we have our corrective actions and preventative actions. And in the future, we'll be having like a risk assessment and areas of improvement, maybe that will no longer be called the purpose. Continuous improvement. The quality assurance promotes a culture of continuous improvement, encouraging adaptation and enhancements of procedures. After getting a non-conformance, be it from an audit or maybe whatever process that was actually that identified it, we then have a continuous improvement to say how we can actually improve from what didn't go right. Then long-term reliability of this is not only to ensure quality today, but continually improve and evolve for the future. We know that quality doesn't have a destination to say, today we are done with the quality. It's our everyday business. So we practice quality every day until we will leave. The laboratories will still be practicing quality, and those that come will continue from there. So it doesn't have a stop. Focus on error prevention. While our QA includes error detection, its primary focus is on the prevention of errors. So prevention, we always know that it's better than cure. So if we actually have our robust QA, it will make sure that errors are actually prevented. It's actually proactive. It's about processes and protocols that reduce the likelihood of errors occurring in the first place. So that will be an ideal way to have to say we actually prevent this from happening, because we know that when it's there, there are a lot of procedures that need to be taken into consideration to work out those errors. Okay, quality assurance activities. When we have a new method, we really need to verify the method, or even instruments we do verify to check if it does what the manufacturer said it actually does. So we then need to document its performance of those test methods and ensure that they produce accurate and consistent results. So its significance is it is crucial for trustworthy of the results, and we make sure that they are essential for regulatory compliance. Another activity is about personnel training. Well, we know that if our staff is well trained, they will significantly contribute towards the accuracy of the test results. So it can be a training on analyzer, it can be a training on any other procedure for the laboratory. So if staff is well trained, yes, the accuracy of the results, it increases. So its role includes ongoing training to keep the staff updated and on the best practices and the new techniques. Then another activity is on equipment maintenance. We need to regularly do maintenance in our equipment, and it's very important so that we remain with accurate and reliable results. So in other words, our equipment needs to be maintained according to the manufacturer's recommendations. If they say this needs to be done daily, that should be done daily. Those that needs to be done weekly, they need to be done on weekly basis and monthly and so forth. So the consequences of not actually doing the maintenance on the machine, on the equipment, can lead to errors and unreliable results. And again, it can lead to high costs of maybe servicing or buying maybe parts that may actually get damaged due to not maintaining the equipment on time. So we need to emphasize this one to say equipment maintenance is very critical, because it is one way, it's one QA activity that will actually, it's proactive, it will prevent damages to the analyzers. So we really need to adhere to the good schedules, the schedules that are actually highlighted. So moving on to the next activity is on the process improvement. Okay, quality assurance, it focuses on identifying and implementing improvements in the laboratory processes. Then its benefit, it's continuous improvement that leads to enhanced quality, efficiency, and cost effectiveness. So there will be no way that in a laboratory we won't have any area for improvement. There will always be an area for improvement. So we really need to take that opportunity to work on them. And once we do so, they actually minimize errors or any inaccuracies in the future. Moving on, may I again check if I'm still audible?
Yes, Ngozi.
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to the error detection and the correction. It is very important to actually detect errors in our laboratories so that we know where the errors are and how we can best prevent them from occurring, and then correct them so that we always produce quality results. So effective correction processes must be in place to identify the errors promptly. Recurrence prevention. The goal is not only to correct errors, but to implement measures that prevent their recurrence. So if we have seen an error in our, for example, in an analyzer, that maybe if we didn't do the maintenance well, maybe there's clogging of the tubes. So now we have to communicate to say all the maintenances should be done accordingly so that we don't have a clog again in the future. So that is actually the goal for error detection, to say we prevent its reoccurrence. And we then need to communicate, because if it's not communicated to the entire staff members, some may not know. Error detection, again, we say regular monitoring, including instruments checks, a review of the results is essential for detecting errors. Early detecting of errors at an early stage, it prevents inaccurate results from reaching patients. And again, it helps that even our turnaround time will not be affected if we detect the errors early. Because if they are detected late, you find that now patients will have to wait whilst trying to resolve the errors and rerunning the samples. So then sometimes they may actually lose trust on us. Then continuous improvement. Its role in QA. Error detection and correction are very important to the culture of continuous improvement. Learning from errors, mistakes provide valuable insights for enhancement. So in most cases, we find that error that happened, next time maybe it won't happen, because we already have identified how it came about and we now know how to prevent it from happening. Then we also have a role of accreditation. What is accreditation? We say it is the formal recognition that a laboratory complies with the specific quality standards set by regulatory bodies or accrediting organizations. So it is very important, accreditation, because it actually affirms to the commitment to quality and excellence. And it actually boosts credibility and the compliance and accountability. So we have quite a number of accrediting bodies or organizations. I think we have heard of the SATCAS, SANAS, and etc. So they actually come just to check if we do really adhere to the quality, to the standard, the ISO standard, and we follow what we actually say we will do in our quality manual. Then let's look at the regulatory compliance. As medical laboratories, we really need to comply to a number of standards. We have rules that are being set. We have standards. We have policies. We have requirements. We have regulations. We need to be transparent in our work, and there are laws that are there in the country to say how we actually supposed to work. So we really need to comply to all this. So it is very important that we comply so that we earn the public trust. Public should actually trust us to say the laboratory work accordingly. And we need to be accountable and transparent, as we say. And as Mr. Dlamini did highlight about the roles of EMDC, we really need as medical practitioners to register with the Eswatini Medical and Dental Council. I think it's non-negotiable because we are not even supposed to practice without a license. So it is a compliance even to register. Maybe at this stage in time, we can urge those that haven't registered to kindly do so, whilst I think maybe, I don't know if the leniency is still there, or maybe the law will take its course. And those that haven't renewed, they probably do so. I think this is October, it's there. The year starts in October, so we need to actually renew. So let's look into the benefits of the quality control and the quality assurance. These actually efforts yield a wide array of benefits, ultimately in contributing to improve patient care and laboratory success. Our patients' care will actually be improved when we have a good quality assurance and a good quality control. And we'll have our test results being accurate, and will reduce the risk of misdiagnosis and improper treatment. You can imagine how much it can be costing for utilize wrong medication for a patient. For example, maybe the patient has a wound and a swab was actually taken to maybe the microbiology department. Maybe an error did happen when doing the DST. You find that the drug that was resistant, it was taken out as a susceptible drug. So now they will give that susceptible drug in quotes, yet it is resistant, and the patient will maybe take for 7 days or so without any improvement. Then they will have to come back, they do the test, they change again. So it will be costly, and it will be actually detrimental even to the patient, him or herself, or sometimes the patient can die. So better outcomes, accurate results directly translate to improved patient outcomes and overall healthcare quality. Okay, we've covered the reduced cost to say when we adhere to a good QC and QA, we lead to a streamlined and more efficient laboratory operations. We save the cost. The efficiency can result in reduced operational costs. Then another benefit is enhanced laboratory reputation, credibility. Then consistently reliable results boost the laboratory's credibility among healthcare providers and patients. And I think the public at large, locally and internationally. Attraction and retention. A strong reputation can attract and retain talented staff and encourage collaboration with other healthcare organizations. Okay, I think as we are about to finish our course today, let's just look into the laboratory equipment maintenance. As we said, the equipment is one of the quality essentials that we really use in our analytical phase. Proper maintenance of our laboratory equipment is a cornerstone of ensuring the precision and reliability of diagnostic tests. The importance of maintenance is actually the reliability and accuracy and the trust in the results. So if everything is done well, the analyzers, they are well maintained, they are well calibrated, they run well with the internal quality controls, they pass the EQAs, then we assure of reliability and accuracy, and then we trust our results. Then consequences of neglect, because sometimes we do neglect our maintenance schedules. We risk errors and the quality decline, so our quality will come down. So doing this, we are preventing downtime. So the downtime of the equipment will be low, hence its uptime will be increased, and will be consistent in providing the service. To say every day, Monday to Monday, for example, our chemistry analyzer, it's up and running, not to say today it's all not working, it's down, tomorrow it's working. So we are no longer consistent, and by so we can actually even lose a trust in our clients. Okay, as we conclude, maybe we just need to highlight some few points that we have mentioned above. So emphasizing the precision and reliability, we've been talking about this accuracy and precision and the reliability in this analytical phase are very, very, very important to avoid errors that can directly impact patient diagnosis and treatment. The roles of the quality control and quality assurance cannot be overemphasized in providing the immediate error detection and correction, and focusing on the continuous improvement and error prevention. As we did highlight some time back, that our QC will actually detect the errors, but when we put up a robust QA, it will actually prevent even the errors from occurring. Then the value of maintenance. Proper maintenance of laboratory equipment is imperative to sustain precision, reliability, and the trust of the patients and the healthcare providers. Regulatory compliance and accreditation. We say regulatory compliance and accreditation, they validate our commitment to quality, maintaining public trust, and enhancing our quality credibility. Continuous improvement. The journey to quality is ongoing, as we have said, and we must embrace a culture of continuous improvement to adapt to new challenges and advancements. Then lastly, benefits to patients' care. The QC and QA and maintenance directly translate to improved patient care, reduced costs, and enhanced the laboratory reputation. And again, our health workers, our laboratory staff actually get happy. They are actually boosted, when they actually have all their system in place working well, and hence at the end of the day, they achieve accreditation. The morale is boosted. Thank you. I think at this point in time, we can open for questions, comments, and reactions.
Mr. Dlamini. I see there's a hand from Tony Achuk. Tony, over to you.
Siyabonga, Mr. Dlamini, for the informative presentation. I've got a question linked to the comment. How do you correct shifts in QCs? Because sometimes QCs might be passing, but I find when you look at the graph, there's a negative or positive bias, so that there's no Gaussian distribution. So how do you correct that? Then secondly, is there an effect on patient results when QCs show a bias in either positive or negative way? Nyabonga.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Achuk, for the question. I don't know if I did get the first one correctly, where you say you want to know how you correct the IQC.
My question is, QCs might be passing. You run QCs, they pass, but when I look at the graph, is that having a positive bias or a negative bias? That there's no Gaussian distribution actually, which normally they say is not right. So how do you correct such?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Achuk. Yes, it is true that IQC, it's actually broad. We didn't get into much details of the IQC to say the plotting of the graphs and everything, the rules and everything. So yes, QC, it actually may pass, but you find that it has violated some of the rules. So once the rules are being violated, I think there are always ways of troubleshooting that, starting from checking what we've been talking about. If our analyzers have been well maintained, they've been well calibrated, do they actually pass, and checking even our controls, if maybe those controls are those that needs to be reconstituted, if they are well reconstituted, and are they still within the time limit to say maybe they should be used within maybe 5 days of reconstituting the temperatures and everything. I think that's where we basically start to check, so that we make sure that we get all our controls within like maybe the plus or 2, and the having to pass all the rules. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Achuk, you had the second question on the effect of QC.
Yes, my second question is, if QC shows a bias, either positive or negative, does it mean that does it have an effect, or can it detect an error on the patient result? Can you still release patient results when QCs are showing a bias, either positive or negative, but within range? QCs are within range, but showing a bias, negative or positive. Can you release the results?
Okay, thank you so much once again. Yes, if there is a positive or negative bias, again, you double check with the requirements, the rules of the QCs to say how many points, depending on the rules that you are actually using in your laboratory. So if it's a positive bias that has exceeded what is actually supposed to be, you really need to not release the patient results. But if it's still within the acceptability limit, yes, you can. But then if it's above, you need to actually correct that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dlamini, for this wonderful presentation and the response as well to Mr. Tony's question. Colleagues, are there any other more questions for Mr. Trina as we are winding up? Thank you. I see one, Mr. Msibi. What do you say?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Bongos, for the wonderful presentation. It's actually uplifting and very positive for our cadre to see such presentations coming from our team. I don't have a question, but it's just to acknowledge and perhaps say thank you, guys. Thank you for the wonderful effort, the work that you've done so far. Maybe just for you, Mr. Brian, just to perhaps ask a question to actually unpack the allocation of points, the ethical points. If you are presenting, how many points do you get? If you're a participant, as far as being part of an audience, like attendance, how many points do you get? Maybe just clarity on that one, because, but otherwise, I really appreciate the presentations and even your own presentation, even though I came a bit late. Otherwise, thank you. It's just that concern, that comment, and then a question on the allocation of the points. Would you please elaborate, Mr. Brian, there?
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Sibu, for that. We really appreciate it as a unit. Well, the allocation of points, it's based on the guidelines. Just like I shared earlier to say, if it's a workshop or in-service training like this one, this is virtual, but it's a CME. 1 hour engagement is equal to 1 point. So the idea of today's session was probably we estimated for about 1 hour half to 2 hours at most. Hence, today's session is 2 points. But even if we finish earlier, it's still okay. Participant will get the points allocated to that. And also for ethics points, we are still in discussion to find a laboratory specific ethic webinar or training that we are still training to set up as a training unit. But for now, what was required by the EMDC was that even if it's an hour session for ethics, it will be equivalent to 3 points, which will be mandatory for us all to have in our database in terms of CPD. So with that said, so we allocate any other training, 1 hour is equivalent to 1 point. But if it's a workshop whereby we are integrated with different cadres, but not specifically looking into the lab, it becomes half, which means it's 0.5. But for ethics points, it's 3 points, despite the duration that we'll have at a time, minimum. Thank you so much. I hope that that was answering a question, Mr. Msip.
Yeah, thank you, Ngos. Yeah, I think it's okay. It's understood. Thank you.
All right. I see Mr. George. May I hand over to you, sir?
Yes, thanks, Rongan. I just wanted to find out if there are any steps being put in place to establish a local accreditation board.
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Oh, I'm saying, are there any steps being put in place to establish a local accreditation board instead of relying on SADCAS?
I'd like
You
to hand
still
over,
can't
sir.
hear me?
Yes, thank you. We got it, sir. I'd like to hand over to Mr. Kina, the creative principal.
Okay, thank you so much, Nkosi. Thank you so much, Mr. Gondwe, for the question. I think at this point in time, I might not have the answer, but we will actually check then update you as to where are we as a country. But what we know, most of the African countries, they actually utilize the SADCAS and the SANAS. But then as to how far are we as Eswatini in establishing our own, we will actually find that one out, then we will come and let you aware of our progress. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for that discussion. Colleagues, are there any other question as we wind up?
Okay, Nkosi, there is a chat from Ajuk. Okay. Mr. Tony Ajuk is asking if there is any guidance from the quality unit for setting up QC ranges. Okay, I think with this one, what we actually know is for the commercially prepared or the purchased the quality control material, they do actually come with the normal ranges. But according to the standard, well, each lab it's actually required to actually then now customize or come up with their own QCs for that setting. I think it can be not a QC for like the whole country because the situations are not like the same, maybe Good Shepherd, Pixpeak, to say there are some formulas to actually use to say you run those QCs, maybe like you take the values of 20 times, then you calculate your own standard deviation, then you actually come up with your own QC range at that particular lab. I don't know if I do answer you, Mr. Ajuk. Okay, over to you, Nkosi.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope yeah, that it was answered to Mr. Tony. Please, I think we're at the end of our today's session. I would like to appreciate you all for joining. But before we close, just like we mentioned that we run a small quiz, which acts as our attendance register for today's session. Can I share my screen to show the QR code, which you can scan with your phone, or maybe take the link on the chat box, which I've already pasted. Just complete the questions there. I think there are about 10 today, and then, but mostly also demographics as well as your practice number. And we'll use that as today attendance register for today's session. So can I share my screen now? I hope you can all see my screen. I might also mention, colleagues, that next CME on the 9th of November. We'll be touching in details on biosafety and biosecurity, just the introductory module. And our speaker there, it's our chief, Cindy, for the EHLS. So colleagues, this is the QR code for the quiz, and the link is already pasted in the chat box. Kindly feel free to complete. And I see some labs like the NTRL were sharing the screen with different participants on that. Please ensure everyone that was joining completes the quiz as well, which will also mark as your attendance in the database. Then we can update the data in the EMDC as well as the training office. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you.
Bye.
awathina kahle asifundzile bogogo labangati ma-date of birth abo wena yakho watalwa nini? In July. July nini? Cabanga le date phela sesizawubala. Wena wathi ukuthi phela uyatibalela nawe ukuthi ngatalanga nini?